Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to yet another Ask an Engineer. It's me, LadyAda, the engineer. With me is Mr. LadyAda on camera control and keeping everything behind the scenes running so that I can do the engineering. And we got an exciting show for you tonight, a lot of news and updates and videos and products. So we're going to get right into it. Mr. LadyAda, what's on tonight's show?
On tonight's show, the code is Deluxe. Code is Deluxe, 10% off in the Adafruit store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, or if I fall asleep and I don't remember to turn off the code, you probably have a little bit more time than that, but do try to get your orders in also because it's a time for high demand. Lots of people want lots of things, and you get to save 10% off in the Adafruit store. We'll talk about the Adafruit Live series of shows, including Show and Tell. Had a fantastic Show and Tell. Thank you everyone who stopped by.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Time travel, look around the world of makers, hackers, artists, engineers. We'll also do some fun retro tech. We did a little bit of a preview of that as the show started. Main New York City factory footage, a look around here at Adafruit, what we're making and more. 3D printing, what Noah and Pedro are up to, and a cool speed up. We have INMPI, brought to you by Adafruit and DigiKey, where LadyAda shows you the newest product that's on digikey.com. Got new products, top secret. We answer your questions, and big news, we did have 33,000 people in our Discord server community, and now we have 34,000. That just happened.
Fast.
That happened right before we went on air.
Boom.
And you can join us, adafruit.it/discord or discord.gg/Adafruit. All that and more on, you guessed it,
Dun,
Ask an
dun.
Engineer. Okay, so I want to start off before we do the full show, and first off, just say thank you to everyone out there who emailed our team, us, asked us how we were doing. A lot of folks know we're in New York City. A lot of folks know that our team lives and works also in Brooklyn. And there was a mass shooting on the subway yesterday, and it was terrible for everyone in the city. New York City comes together, but this is all still very raw. But what I wanted to do is just say, here's what happened here in New York City, here's the impact it had, and here's some of the things that we did. It's going to take a while to process this. And earlier today, before we went live on the shows, they have arrested the person who did this. So that was a bit of a relief because we were all about to commute home. People have kids in school. Yesterday there were school lockdowns. So yesterday in the morning, around 8:30 or so, there was a shooting, but it took a little while for the news to come out. It was unknown what happened. There was maybe 30 people injured. One thing I want to mention is, thank goodness, there was 30 shots altogether, and no one died. No one was killed. There was 20-something people in the hospital, and all but 3 have been discharged already, and it looks like all are going to be okay. There was some shots fired. There was like a smoke bomb, smoke grenade, and it was scary, and we all watched this real time on social media, and we were getting information, and there was nothing on the news yet. And so we immediately sent out an email to our entire team and let them know this is something that's happening. Don't worry about getting to work. If there's delays or whatever, don't worry about it. We'll take care of any of the time off. We'll pay you for this. Don't worry about that. Some people worry about that. Folks got in. It happened earlier, and no one happened to be at that spot. We have 100 plus people commuting every day to Adafruit in some way. And so as soon as we got some of the news, we used our email system together. We also we have an internal Slack, and then we also, and this is just something that I thought would be helpful to tell other people who work at companies or run businesses, we have everyone's contact information and their emergency contact. And so what we did immediately is make sure we could account for everyone who was supposed to be here. If they were running late, text them, where are you okay? Because there was a lot of people missing at the time. And then one of the things, as the situation developed, we reassured folks, if there's things that are continuing on, don't worry about that. We are going to take care of one another because it's unknown what's going to happen with subways today. It's unknown what's going to happen with transportation. Don't worry about getting to your loved ones. Make sure you tell them that you're okay. And it was just a lot of reassuring folks what was going to happen in the next 24 hours. I lived through 9/11, and it reminded me a little bit of that. And we also had, last couple of years have been really challenging. And so after the team got in, everyone was accounted for. We started to get out more information as the story developed throughout the day. They were looking for the suspect. There was information that the authorities were trying to get out. And we just kept our team updated. We did an end-of-day recap. We made sure there was open line communication to everyone. What are you worried about? Some of the things that you don't think about is if you're someone who kind of looks like the person they're looking for, that makes your life complicated, and it makes you're worried that maybe the cops are going to mistake you for this person. And this has happened before. And so there's a lot of things that go on and a lot of anxiety when things like this happen. So we made sure that our team knew maybe you don't take the subway, maybe we could send a car to get you home. So there's a lot of things that go into this. And the news paints a different picture of New York than what New York is. It is a very good, fun, safe place. This type of thing is very rare, but of course it's very shocking. So a couple of years ago, we also added paid time off for gun violence for anyone affected by gun violence, because it is a thing in the USA, unfortunately. And so we made sure our team knew if they had a circumstance, even if it wasn't related to this, that they had that for like a mental health day or whatever. And so today was a bit of a relief. I think we all had a collective sigh of relief. The person was apprehended not too far from here. It was in Manhattan, the East Village, First and St. Mark's, one of the places we walk by all the time. And so the person had left Brooklyn and they were in Manhattan. So that's what went on here. So I wanted to just give you this is like real time. This is from people that y'all know. And that's what we did to take care of our team. And it's not over. It's going to take a while for everyone to feel safe again. And we're just going to continue to work with one another. And on a last note, I don't know how to solve the mental health crisis in the world or the U.S., but what I do know is every single person has a chance to be good to one another every single day. You get to decide every day if you're going to help someone, if you're going to hurt someone. And some people are struggling and they need help and they're alone, and things bubble up and things build up, and this is one of the outcomes, and it seems to be happening more and more. So that extra 1 minute, maybe sometimes to check in on someone or talk to someone in a family that's not doing so well, it could save a lot of lives. Thank goodness this particular incident, it was terrible. No one died. That's not always true. So anyways, that's what's been going on here. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who immediately reached out. Some folks know us really well and they're like, are you okay? I know some of you live right there. So thank you, we appreciate it, and we're all okay. All right, let's go on to the show, LadyAda. So as folks stock up their cart and support a New York City company, I got to roll out
Brooklyn employees.
Yeah, by the way, we're not going anywhere. We're here to stay. We like building stuff in the USA, in New York City, and we like it so much we give you free stuff.
That's right. When you order from Adafruit, we give you some freebies in your cart. We're going to be adding some more freebies soon. We just have to get components, but we hope to be adding another RP2040 freebie soon. But for now, $99 or more, you get a free Permaproto half-size breadboard. $149 or more, you get a Stemma QT breakout. If you make an account, we'll send you a different one each time. In fact, the Vemel 770 that we're going to be announcing today it got added because it's a fun lux sensor. It's very easy to use. It works over I2C. And then $199 or more, you get free UPS ground shipping in the continental United States.
Yeah, and I don't know how long the $200 free shipping tier, the shipping tier that we have is going to last, because we might have to raise it because of even Amazon is raising their prices because fuel and surcharges are getting expensive.
Yeah, the cost of ground shipping is up 50%.
It's
basically.
going up. And another reminder, make sure you have an account, verify it via email, and then put two-factor authentication, because that's the only way to get a Raspberry Pi in a lot of high demand.
Yeah,
things.
if you want to pick up one of our Raspberry Pis, and we tend to put in a couple hundred every week, so just be aware, maybe some will go in tomorrow, maybe some on Friday. Make your account, get two-factor authenticated, get all your shipping information ready to go, fill your cart with anything else you want, so that when we do put the Pis in, you can add it and check it immediately. People are like, oh, I didn't, sign up for two-factor, and I didn't put my address in, and then by the time I checked out, I ran out of time. Don't be that person. Be ready. Be prepared.
All right. So we did a live series of shows this week. There's a couple things that got moved around because of schedules and more, but so far so good. We just finished up the show and tell. We do that every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. It's either LadyAda and I, or Noam Pedro, or JP. And this week on the show and tell, there was lots. Watch it. We showed the connection machine. We showed a lot of cool LEDs. We showed the Doom stroller. But I think the thing that was... they were all good projects, but one of the things I thought that was really neat this week was Matt stopped by, and showed all of these IoT sensor things to automate a food bank. And a food bank, not as, I have to be careful because the word bank doesn't mean anything anymore. It's where people go who need food.
A food pantry.
Food pantry, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a really neat thing that Matt's been volunteering for since he's been 18. And you can see all the problems that were solved. Oh, what's the temperature of the refrigerator? What if the refrigerator is open? That has to reset the temperature of the refrigerator because you also want to know if someone accidentally left it open. And there's this cool ticket system and how the numbering works. And it is amazing. So here's just like one. Matt sent this to me ahead of time in case, because he did a mobile demo, which is always challenging with walking around showing stuff. And it prints out things, and it uses a lot of really neat off-the-shelf things to basically run a food pantry. So excellent work, Matt. And I'll be using that link when people say, well, what can IoT do? Because there's a lot of like, oh, smart cities. Well, what about smart pantries? What about smart food banks?
Well, I thought it was interesting about the food bank is the first thing he showed is, people may want to pick up their food and they don't have a phone. And it's true, like some people don't have a phone or their phone is broken. It's like you can't have something where it depends on you having a cell phone number and SMS. So he made sure that it was possible for people to put their hand over the sensor and it would just print out a tag with a unique identifier so that then, if they didn't have a phone, they at least had a number and identifier that they could use.
Okay. On Sundays, we do From the Desk of LadyAda. This week, it's always in two parts. The first part, we showed off some things from the mailbag and this cool Spaceball mouse-like entity that you showed how to use with Python.
Yeah, and I got that working, and I put the gist up. So if you have a Spaceball 2000, there's other projects to get it working with CAD software, but I want to just get the raw data out. So we did that. I just, I looked at the protocol and quickly threw together a PySerial script, and all the buttons and the ball rotation worked pretty well. So it could be used for other user interface needs.
We also had a weird Arduino compatible that was pink that we showed off.
Yeah, it was
from the
cute
mailbag. And then the great search that we do every week is how to find stuff, because you need to find stuff because stuff are hard to find. Stuff is hard to find.
So I looked up a 3 volts RS-232 to serial converter, which would be the chip I'd use to talk to this kind of Spaceball 2000 device, and I thought I'd maybe make a Featherwing with it. So I wanted to find a chip that was inexpensive and in stock, and I did find one. That's the challenge, not just finding the part, but finding the part you can get.
Yeah. JP's product pick of the week was off this week. You will see it coming up soon. JP's show will be back tomorrow. JP was on vacation. And we have this week's highlight that we normally show right after JP's show. So we have this week's CircuitPython Parsec. Take it away, JP.
For the CircuitPython Parsec today, I wanted to show you how to use a touchscreen in CircuitPython. In this case, I'm using a PyPortal Titano, the big one. So you can see here, what I have to start with is this really cool bouncing logo. Touchscreen element here can give us X and Y position as well as pressure. I'm just using X and Y. So all I need to do is touch somewhere on the screen, and you can see I'm repositioning where that logo is. I'm not changing anything about its sort of inertia and angle that it's going at. But if I have it, let's say, bouncing down into the left, and I just want to speed things along and get closer to the bottom there, I can tap it, just moves the logo to that new position. And in fact, if I click and drag, you can see it'll follow my finger around until I let go. So the way I'm doing this in code, first of all, I'm importing the Adafruit touchscreen library, and then I do some display stuff, set up some palettes, and set up my logo as a bitmap. But the touchscreen stuff is right here. I'm creating this object, I call it TS for touchscreen. TS equals Adafruit touchscreen, and then we're telling it 4 pins that it uses, a 4-wire touchscreen. And on this particular board, they're named touch YD, so y-axis up and down, YU, and X right, X left. So those 4 pins are selected. The calibration values actually are set at the factory, so you generally don't have to mess with those. And then I'm telling it what size the display is. That's all you have to do for setup. Then to use it, all we do is query this, touch equals ts.touchPoint. And what that's going to give us is an X and a Y position on the screen. It also gives us that Z depth. I'm just not showing that here. and then I'm using those to adjust that value that was already in the code for moving this around. So you can use this for things like painting or placing objects or drawing, maybe even changing vertices on vector IO stuff would be kind of a cool use for it. And so that is how you can use a touch screen inside of CircuitPython. And that is your CircuitPython Parsec.
Okay, and as we mentioned on the show and tell, Tim stopped by, and this Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, there's going to be a big CircuitPython library deep dive and special guest Kattni.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
have
Kattni's the snake in that little graphic.
we have some news about libraries in CircuitPython later on in the show.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn about how these are all made, how they're structured, how to join in, how to participate,
You're welcome.
Yeah, come on by. All right, let's do some time traveling. Okay, a little bit of a reminder, because we gotta say it every single week. We are still waiting on many things to arrive for the next AdaBox. We appreciate all the patience people have. Also, one thing I wouldn't have expected over the last few years. So I would have expected folks to say, well, you know, it's COVID, there's lockdown. I'm gonna cancel all my subscriptions and everything because there's uncertainty. No, we actually had more people sign up for the AdaBox subscriptions during that time because they wanted to occupy themselves with things that made them happy and they wanted to get through that time. And then there's been a part shortage, and I was worried, okay, well, folks are gonna say, well, I didn't get the AdaBox, you know, by the time I thought I would get it, you told me it was gonna be a little later because of the part shortage, and right now I think parts of China are still shut down. So would it be the end of AdaBox? No, turns out we have more people waiting to sign up for AdaBoxes than we've ever had before. So we appreciate the patience. We're shipping soon. We're now calling this the Spring Edition. We don't charge for AdaBox until it ships, so you don't have to worry about that. But we do have a limited number of slots. So if you want to get AdaBox, go to adabox.com, sign up. You'll get notified if anyone leaves. And that's one of the things that does happen sometimes. Someone will leave, and then someone immediately gets their slot. You get notified that you can join in. So anyways, thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. But y'all know what's going on in the world in every way, shape, and form. So thanks for being patient. Okay, RetroTech. This is probably one of the more popular RetroTech video and photo shoots that we did. So this is a book from the 80s, and it's called Inside the Personal Computer, an Illustrated Introduction in 3 Dimensions. And every single page has a 3D pop-up that has computers which, in 1984, they were very understandable, and you could open them up and you could see what was going on, but not everyone had computers yet. And the concepts still need to be explained, and a lot of these concepts are still the same. And when you go through each page, and I'm going to show the video without the sound because we showed that at the beginning of the show, it explains what is RAM, what are hard drives, what are how does a chip work,
It's so cute.
I really hope that and here's a floppy, and I think this is the only book that has a quote functional floppy in it because it shows how it works. But I really hope that there's a revisiting of this approach, because how does your phone work? Wouldn't it be nice if there was like a pop-up book or something that explained the concepts of how the LEDs get on the screen? And so one of the things about a pop-up book, though, is, yeah, we could scan it in, but you kind of have to see it. So we also made a video that highlighted all the different things. So there's a floppy coming out. Next page, it's a keyboard. Here's how bytes work. And it explains all these concepts. So, you know, if you grew up in this era, you have a better idea of how computers work. Maybe you went on to do stuff with technology, but right now it's all kind of sealed up, and you don't get to understand how all these things work as much. So one of the reasons that we do these retrospects is to hopefully inspire people to do things like this. I'd like to see a pop-up book that explains how the Raspberry Pi works. That'd be cool. I maybe will email them about this. So that's this week retro. Python on hardware. Okay, this week, lots of news. And I'm going to divide up the news in 2 sections. Straight up newsletter stuff. So this is from the newsletter. I've already scrolled down because we're going to talk about some other stuff in a second. But Python 3.11 to be twice as fast as its predecessors.
Ooh.
That's a
To people like that, because
That's a big deal.
Python's not, you
Yeah.
know, it's not slow, but it could be faster.
In October of 2022, the plan is to have it quadrupled, but we'll see.
Okay.
It's in there.
Okay.
So the presentation about all this and more is on GitHub. PSF Python Software Foundation has a new executive director. Meet Deb. You can read about Deb and more. This was interesting. I'm going to caution y'all who are super Python fans. So IEEE Spectrum, top programming languages for embedded. Python? Could it be?
Was it embedded or
Yeah,
just?
so see the little chip? So it's web, it's computer,
Oh, and embed.
and embed. So Java is still big on mobile, C, but I think these results are a little skewed, and I think it's our fault.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people getting into programming on microcontrollers, and they're using CircuitPython, they're using MicroPython, they're using Python on something like a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's skewing that way, which is fine. I don't necessarily think that everyone who's doing embedded is doing Python yet, but I think we're getting closer and closer because so many people know Python that it translates really well to whatever you happen to be in front of. And batteries included, so you get very far very fast. And when people need to do things, like you were doing this HID mouse from 30 years ago, use Python to interact with it.
It makes it real easy. Makes it real easy.
So it's interesting. Like I said, I don't think that Python is number one. And they also classify Arduino as its own language on here. So that Arduino's number 11. Python zipped to the top at number 1. I think obviously there's a lot of people using Arduino for embedded. So anyways, interesting stuff. Take a look at it. IEEE Spectrum is serious business. So that's kind of neat to see. We have all of the news that you can expect in our newsletter every single week. This is kind of a neat, a portable severance limit terminal. I think Todd Bot did that one. It's kind
Yeah.
of like the DVD logo. And all the projects that you know and love and get inspired by YouTube.
There's some fun part. I like the spinning black and white thing. What's it called? The Cook's radiometer. Somebody made like a cyber one.
There
It's cute.
is a LinkedIn class, CircuitPython, connecting a robot cat to the internet.
I mean, look at that cat.
Yeah, and e-ink badges and more. But the news this week, a lot of it is CircuitPython related because we got to talk about it. First up, thank you again, everyone who joined the Discord. 34,000 people. This particular month happened faster, or the time period to get there. This is what the Discord growth looks like, all the way back from 2019,
It's pretty linear.
and not bad. And we also don't publish our server into the directory because bots use it and spam and lots of drive-bys. And so this is people who actually want to stop in and do things.
You know, it's interesting. If you look, it looks like right when COVID hit, there was a big spike. It looks like it was about March 2020. A lot of
We
people
also
joined.
did a membership drive when we were in server discovery. We're just like, hey,
Yeah.
everybody stop by. But
Yeah.
but it turns out that wasn't great for all of our moderators and for all of us because there was just a
Yeah.
lot of
bots.
spam.
Yeah.
And then on Reddit, we just hit 3,000 people on the CircuitPython Reddit. You can go to reddit.com/r/CircuitPython. And then we hit 350 libraries. And that's what we're talking about on Friday in Deep Dive. And here's a chart of how the libraries are going. Looking good.
Nice graph.
Yeah. And so I guess I wanted to ask you, because we turned this little segment into a standalone thing. Why do you think there's so many CircuitPython libraries? There's 350.
I wrote a lot.
Yeah. No, but why do you think? Because we have more CircuitPython libraries than Arduino libraries. And why did that happen?
We actually have about the same number, but
Really? I thought it was a little more.
I think we have about. Well, I mean, CircuitPython we have contributions to. It's almost about the same.
Okay, let's say why did it catch up so fast?
Yeah, why catch up so fast? Which is a good question. One of the things when we designed CircuitPython is we kind of came at it backwards. One of the things I wanted to make sure is that we had a lot of libraries. It was easy to write libraries. It was easy to support libraries because at the time I was writing libraries for MicroPython as well as for Python on Raspberry Pi, and that was what was driving me nuts. Was like I had to support both because MicroPython was different enough from Python that the code wasn't compatible, and so we specifically designed CircuitPython to make it so that code could run on a Raspberry Pi computer or a Raspberry Pi Pico now, and it would be the same code. The pin numbers would change, but that's normal. Like that, that always changes. But the functionality and the way the code was written and the libraries was written and supported would be the same. So what's great is that for every product we make now, we make sure to have a CircuitPython library because it covers, hundreds of single board computers, because Raspberry Pi and all the Raspberry Pi alikes, as well as the 200 different, 250, 260 different CircuitPython boards, and
Wow.
the universality of those libraries was really important.
295 boards.
290, almost 300, almost
graphic
300
coming
boards.
for that.
There's a graphic coming. It's going to be the 3.
It's like this, but 300.
It's like 3 with 300.
Yeah.
And another thing is that we sell hardware, and so I want to make sure that people can use our hardware with CircuitPython. And also, I wanted, the final piece is that one of the things that people find annoying about CircuitPython is they're like, why did you redo the bus and GPIO libraries? Like, why is it different than MicroPython? Why didn't you just use machine? And the answer was, at the time, there wasn't a unified interface. There wasn't a unified way to make sure that a library would run on every MicroPython board. Later on, machine was invented and PyB went away, but for a long time, it was like every board had their own kind of slightly different way of defining stuff. And so having a universal bus library, a bus interface for CircuitPython meant that we could write libraries and they would work on every board. And so far, other than a couple freaky exceptions with like I2C and whether they have clock stretching support or not, pretty much every library will run on any CircuitPython board. And that's was a goal, and I think we've done a really good job of it.
And just from like a very high level thing, I think an observer would say, oh, because you have lots of libraries, you have lots of boards, but because we have lots of boards, we have lots of libraries. Like it's really
No, we
neat.
went the libraries first. The
Yeah.
libraries came before the boards.
It's really neat, and there's folks that have entire businesses based on the fact that they don't have to worry about the software for the hardware, because every time there's a new version of CircuitPython, it just works because there's universal support across 295 boards.
and
so-
another 150 Linux
Yeah.
boards.
So anyways, big milestone. Thank you everyone who's been a contributor and everyone who's been watching this story. It is part of the newsletter delivered to you every single week. We don't spam or anything like that. You can go to adafruitdaily.com and sign up. All right, open source hardware time, LadyAda. First up, big news. Next week is the Open Hardware Summit, April 22nd. It is virtual.
Look at these cool graphics.
And we were asked by the Open Hardware Summit folks, will you get the word out about a special thing that's happening? And when I said, yeah, sure, let me put it on our show, because these are the folks that will actually do the call to action, as they say in the biz. So Oshawa is excited to share that SparkFun is sponsoring one more round of goodie bag shipping after the summit, April 2022. They have 95 more bags available globally, as well as free, and donation tickets are available. This is the bag you get. So if you want to get a goodie bag, you can go to oshawa.org, check out the link, and then it takes you over to Eventbrite, and you can get a ticket virtually, and then you can get the goodie bag edition, and then you'll get a goodie bag, and
full of goodies. Thank you,
will be
SparkFun.
shipped. Okay, we have 2,655 guides in the Adafruit Learning System, LadyAda. There is a bunch. The guides get better and better each week. What is this week's guide?
Okay, well, we've got a guide for the Qt Py BFF LiPoly add-on. That was something that folks wanted me to build, and then Kattni kindly wrote a quick guide for it. It's straightforward, but good to have. The ESP32S2 Feather Guide got a Whippersnapper page, how to install Whippersnapper and use it. We're adding quick start Whippersnapper guides to all of our Wi-Fi boards to make it really easy for people who don't want to write any code at all. Even CircuitPython or Arduino, they want to get started with a no-code IoT solution to do so.
Okay. And next up,
Same with the Qt Py ESP32S2 that also got a Whippersnapper guide. And the quick start for Adafruit IO Whippersnapper. Some of the pages got gutted out of there, and we just point people towards the hardware page. Liz did this really cool Doom Scroll and Chill. It's a wireless.
show a video in a second.
We're going to show the video, but it's a scroll wheel. We have this really cool, like iPod Classic-esque scroll wheel, and we thought it would be really funny to make a scrolling controller that you could also play Doom with. And also the Feather ESP32S2 TFT, I think, also got a Whippersnapper upgrade.
And
Lots of
here's
whippers.
a demo from Liz. time for some New York City factory footage. We can't stop. We won't stop. Here it is. And it wouldn't be New York City factory footage without a view outside Adafruit, which is the Disney headquarters.
Ooh,
And
they're putting the windows.
they're putting the outer shell on it.
That's actually kind of fun.
Yeah. All right, 3D printing time. We have feather video, and then we have a speed up. So we're going to show these back to back. You ready?
Yep.
Hey, what's up folks? In this video, we're taking a look at the new Adafruit Feather ESP32 V2. This is a big upgrade over the original. The V2 has 8 megabytes of flash, that's twice as much storage. It also has 2 megabytes of PS RAM, a mini NeoPixel, Stemma QT, and a USB-C port. It's designed for low power usage, so you can use a light poly battery in deep sleep. It features the ESP32 Pico module, so you get extra space for pin labels and mounting holes. With Stemma QT, you can just plug in your favorite sensor breakouts and start plotting data. It's a great way to quickly get your IoT projects up and running. You can use it with Arduino IDE just like other ESP32 boards. With the extra flash and RAM, even big and complex projects are a breeze. With Whippersnapper, you can easily make IoT projects without having to write any code. Just install the firmware with a Chrome-based browser, and now your Feather will appear automatically in Adafruit I/O. ESP32v2 also has MicroPython support, so you can write Python code and libraries to create your IoT projects. Follow along with the Adafruit Learn Guide to install and set up your Feather ESP32v2. So what type of IoT projects would you make? You can let us know on Discord and share your projects on Adafruit Show and Tell. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more videos from Adafruit.
Tune in every Wednesday so you can learn how to make all this stuff and more with 3D Hangouts. Noah and Pedro, the longest running live 3D printing show in the known universe. All right, LadyAda, let's remind folks of the discount code DELUXE, and let's kick it off with some Ion MPI.
On MPI.
This week's Ion MPI is from NXP. LadyAda, what is this week's INPI.
Okay, well, I've got a bridge to sell you. No, it's, well, I mean, technically, yes. This week's INPI is from NXP, and it is the, I have to get the part number right, SC18IM704 UART to I2C bridge.
That's not a bridge too far. We're not burning bridges here. We're going to make bridges.
You're a really good co-host. You got the good jokes. All right, so
Trying.
this is the, as I said, the SC18IM704 long part number. This is a 16T SOP chip that is a TTL UART to I2C plus 8 GPIO converter bridge. So you send it UART data and it will perform I2C commands on the other side. It also comes as a handy dandy RS-232 ready to go UART board. So this has a plus minus 10 volt RS-232 port, has the chip and some circuitry, some LEDs. This is the eval board, but I'll say actually this board could come in quite useful if you have a computer that is so old, or some sort of robot that's so old it doesn't have a USB port at all, and it just has RS-232. This is a ready-to-go dev board that you just plug in directly, and it gives you some GPIO and I2C. So this chip is one of many chips. There's a lot of chips in this family. This is a UART to I2C bridge. And, NXP is interesting. It's one of the only companies that makes these bridges, because I've looked into this, and they make like UART to one wire, or UART to SPI, or SPI to I2C, like all sorts of combos. And this has, this chip inside that listens to, again, RS-232 commands, controls the GPIO, controls the I2C controller. And the nice thing is, NXP, which used to be Philips, wrote the I2C specification. So it's going to work well. I didn't see any mention of clock stretching, but it does definitely support a repeated start, which I'll show in a moment. So this is actually an update to a previous product. I think it goes a little bit faster, and it's a little bit more solid. It has like a timeout system. Basically you can send ASCII data over the UART, which means, the nice thing about this is that no matter what computer you have, if you have like a PC 104 board or some like ancient, even like a 386 or a 486, you're going to be able to get to the UART and send data. So it could be also interesting for people doing retro computing if you want to like connect something that's so old that only has RS-232 as it's so non-standard, it only has UART or RS-232. You could connect your I2C sensors to it. And the great thing about I2Cs, there's so many sensors available. So here are some specifications. I like that it has 5 volt tolerance on the input pins. The UART is standard 8N1. There's a 256 byte TX and RX FIFO, which is handy, especially once in a while you've got sensors or devices that really need very long messages sent back and forth. The UART, I think, has auto baud detection, and I think you can also program the baud rate and go up to half a megabit per second. 1 multi-master bus controller, and 8 GPIO. And this is the structure. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's RxTX, as you expect. Power it, reset it, and then, the GPIO pins I thought would be handy, not just, of course, if you want to control a relay, but say you want to reset a chip. We have some I2C sensors that sometimes you reset them before you start talking to them. They act a little bit nicer. Or you could use address selection pins, or maybe read a busy pin or an IRQ pin. So a couple of things that could be useful for those GPIOs. And of course, there's like nearly infinite number of I2C devices you can connect. ADCs and DACs and expanders and every kind of sensor. We've got thermal cameras even that go over I2C. We've got extenders and expanders and et cetera, et cetera. So, no matter what it is, what I like about having it support I2C is that if you have something with a UART and you need like a DAC or a 24-bit ADC, you actually have a shot of connecting it if you have I2C, because I2C, there's almost anything has that as a peripheral available. Like I said, it supports repeated start, so it's kind of handy because there are sensors that really need repeated start or right after write support. Something that they thought of because they're NXP, and again, they wrote the spec. This is the format. So there's also, there's commands for the GPIO port. There's commands for I2C. What is nice is that UART's actually kind of a good protocol to use with converting to I2C bridge because, UART is asynchronous, but it's like you can send commands, and I2C is a truly synchronous protocol, which can make parsing a little easier. Like you're not going to get random data coming back on the RX pin from the UART. You'll send a command and you'll wait for the response because you send I2C data and you get a response or you get a NAC. Here's some example bytes. So they give you some, if you want to read or write an SM bus register, pretty standard stuff you want to do. Also how to set the GPIO input, output, and value. This is the eval board, which I actually picked up. I can also show it on the overhead real fast if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Again, I had these. It seems a little ridiculous because it's like, why would you have this gigantic, RS-232 port? But there's so many times I've had to interface with really old computers or devices, and it's like they didn't have USB, or they had one USB port but nothing else. They didn't have I2C. So many like industrial computers that I've seen only have an RS-232 port. And this could be an easy way if you don't have USB. There are USB to I2C converters that I've used, but if you don't have I2C, this is a solution, and this will drop in work quite well. So check this out. This USB port right here is just for power, for convenience. You can also power it, because RS-232, of course, doesn't power. You can also power it, of course, through the pins over here.
And you said bridges, so this is bridges.
Yes. So I want to mention, if you're like, well, I don't really need UART to I2C, I could use I2C to SPI, or SPI to I2C, or I2C to UART. Worry not, because NXP's got you covered. They've got like every kind of combo. Some of them have even multiple UARTs or multiple buses, whatever, all available. So this is just one of the family which popped up on digikey.com/new, which I recommend. But there are others in this family. So if you want to add a UART to a device that has SPI or I2C, that's actually pretty common need as well, because a lot of times microcontrollers or computers, microcontrollers or microcomputers only have one UART, and sometimes you're like, I need a GPS and a cell module or something. You could use one of these bridges for that use case as well.
Available on DigiKey.
Well, it's not available right now, but it will be. I will say it's getting tougher to get devices that, so if you go back one, I did type in, so it looks like in 2 months they're going to get at least 1,000 in stock. So if you order now, you'll get it in 2 months. In the meantime, you can design with it. Of course, if you need some samples immediately, contact DigiKey. They will hook you up with samples.
Yeah, and we have a pretty good video. It's one of the better ones that a manufacturer
I know.
makes. So we're gonna play it. It's 2 minutes, but it's worth your time.
Yes, covers the entire family.
During device selection, the host and peripheral normally have matched communications protocols. Take, for example, this conference camera. The 24-bit DAC has either an I2C or a SPI interface which matches the embedded processor. However, there can be situations where in mid-production, there is a sudden long-term supply constraint. For example, in this case, the I2C DAC is no longer available, and it requires a permanent move to an SPI DAC. The easiest solution is to use a protocol bridge that translates the different protocols with minimal change to the embedded processor firmware. There is also a similar case where the embedded processor must be reused for new platforms due to extensive use of legacy firmware, but the interface of the peripheral required for the application is different. Again, the solution for this situation is the drop-in bridge that translates between protocols. NXP has an array of bridges that overcome the limitation of different protocols between the host and peripherals. These bridges easily convert between UART, I2C, and SPI buses. This allows greater design flexibility and the ability to retain the original design investment while providing faster time to market. This also allows the ability to link legacy systems to new systems. There are 4 types of bridges, with the first being this family of 5 I2C or SPI to UART bridges with different SPI speeds. number of downstream UART channels, and number of general-purpose I/Os. The next device is the SPI to I2C bridge, which allows the SPI to communicate to fast mode I2C peripherals and is multiple master capable. There are 5 general-purpose I/Os for things like LEDs and switches. The next device is the I2C to SPI bridge, which allows fast mode I2C to communicate to SPI peripherals. The 3 GPIO can be used for the chip select in SPI parallel architecture applications. The next device is the UART to I2C bridge, which allows UART communications using RS-232 protocol to fast mode I2C peripherals and is multiple master capable.
Art on NPI.
Okay, we're going to do some new products.
Yeah.
Don't forget the code is deluxe. All right, LadyAda, kick it.
Yeah. New, 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 new. New, 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 new. All right, you said you needed a lot of new.
We had a special request for that. Long
Okay.
story. It'll make sense later.
Yeah.
Okay, we have it coming soon.
I stick to the engineering. Okay, so the new Create 3 from iRobot. It's not quite out yet, but we do have a sign up. We're out of the Create 2. The Create 3, it looks like a nice upgrade. It's got Wi-Fi, I think it's got Bluetooth, it's got USB
Python
port,
powered.
Python. This looks like a really cool robot. Maybe we'll get CircuitPython Blinka
We
working
will.
on it. That'd be pretty sweet.
Just for the folks, so one of the cool things about iRobot is they're like, oh, we solve the biggest problem with robotics is like you need to make power supply, you need to make this, you need to make that. We happen to make it. So it just comes without the vacuum parts basically, but it's a learning robot. But that's
It's a great
That's
platform.
the genesis of this.
Yeah, and it's a really good deal. You get
Yeah.
the battery, you get the motors, you get the sensors, you get like the computer. I mean, like you couldn't build it for less.
Yeah.
So coming soon. Sign up.
All right. I don't know what this is. What is this?
I think this is
Built from the blueprint of a Roomba robot vacuum, meet the Create 3 educational robot. iRobot's new mobile robot development platform for learning ROS2. A canvas for your creativity, the Create 3 arrives pre-assembled and ready to go with a suite of smart technology. Program the Create 3 to perform simple behaviors, sounds, and movements to grasp the fundamentals of robotics, computer science, and engineering. Or tap into advanced applications including autonomous localization, navigation, and telepresence. The Create 3 lets you mount and power payloads, connect and run third-party hardware, use its cargo bay for storage, and dock the robot on its home-based charging station. As a connected robot, you can talk to the Create 3 in multiple ways and choose between running ROS2, the iRobot coding app, or iRobot Education's Python web playground. Looking for ways to get started? Explore the iRobot Education Learning Library for basic tutorials and sample projects. Or check out the 3D simulation of the Create 3 using Ignition Gazebo or the iRobot coding app for increased access to robotics education and research. What will you create?
Okay, watch this.
Watch this. This is the Bangle.js 2, and this is really cool. When I saw this watch, I'm like, this is sweet. I'm going to show it on the overhead, actually, because it's, of course, you want to see the watch. So it's got the sharp memory display. So here's something interesting. So you see how this display is still on, but it's like really dark? So this is a display that, I mean, I can see it, but you can't because it's like the polarization of the screen. It's a little tough to see, but like you can still read the, right?
Yeah.
You can read that. It's always on screen, but it's not e-ink. It's got like, it's a little bit like the Pebble 2 or 3, I think, had a screen like this. And when you press the button, it does turn on the backlight. It's, I think, like a 9-bit color screen or something. And this is running Esperino. So, hold on. I have to remember how to make it do stuff. Okay, so there's a capacitive touch screen, and there's all these programs that you can, this is, I think, actually running Esperino. So you can reprogram it over BLE, and it's got like temperature reading data, and like you can just have data scroll through. Looks like there's actually a bug in the app. Oh well, I probably shouldn't have done something I didn't know. Oh wait, there you So you can write custom apps for this in JavaScript using Espruino, which is super cool. They had a watch before that was a little chunkier, and this one is an off-the-shelf watch. I think it's called like the QA3 or something. There's a heart rate sensor, there's a temperature sensor, I think barometric pressure and all that. So you can do like heart rates and blood oxygen. But what's really interesting is there's a little magnetic cable that, of course, I have it plugged into my computer. I didn't bring it with me. That plugs onto here, and this actually is power ground, so you can charge the watch up, of course. But then the two middle pins are SWD clock and data. So you can actually reprogram this as an NRF52 840 BLE microcontroller. You could install Arduino on it. You can install CircuitPython on it. You could code it directly with the Nordic NRF API. I think this is really neat. Espruino, of course, is a very easy way to reprogram it. I don't know how to get out of this app. I just got this thing. Why am I making it? Maybe it doesn't quit. But you get the button, capacitive touch screen. I think it's like 200 by 200 pixels. Program it using the Espruino Bluetooth app. Maybe we'll do a little video where we show how to do that, because it's kind of interesting. And the processor inside is the Cortex M4 NR52 840 with 1 megabyte of flash, 256K of RAM, and it's also got an additional 8 megabytes of SPI flash memory storage as well. So all the sensors and a great reverse engineering of this off-the-shelf watch by Espruino. So check out on Hackaday.io. They actually have a document with all of the settings. So if you're interested in learning about the internals, you can do that there. There's also a Kickstarter that completed its funding, and so we've got this in stock now.
Yeah. Next up, revision.
Revision, the VEML 7700, one of the last sensors we made before we started turning everything into StemmaQT. This is now StemmaQTified, so it's great for plug-and-play usage. We have a right-angle version, and this is the flat version, so you can see the sensor is pointing straight up. It's the same PCB for both versions, just one has the chip like rotated. And this just shows, it gives you lux output. It's a really easy-to-use sensor. It's really reliable, and we've got CircuitPython and Arduino code for it.
Okay. We have more of the Deluxe D-Light LEDs. This is by our friend Mark, who we've worked with and been friends with for over a decade. And we have more types available. So that was the blue round one. You can see.
You've got the blue. The round ones are like this kind of crystalline globes.
They come 5 in a pack, and we have green ones.
Green ones, also spherical.
And as Philby said, this is not a drill.
Skulls.
This is real. Skull-shaped LEDs.
White skulls that you could also paint if you wanted to have them in
I
different
can't
colors.
think of another company besides Adafruit that you would expect to have skull LEDs. These are beautiful. I don't know what folks are going to do with these, and that's what the cool part about
But
it
it's
is.
gonna be goth.
It's going to be neat. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be like cool macro photography with them. They are fantastic. I love them.
Goth.
Good work, Mark.
Skull.
And we'll have Mark on one of our shows in some way, shape, or form, and we're also going to do a whole bunch of other additional photos. These are nice, too. We also showed the crystal one. It's a crystal shape last week, and we have more permutations on the way. Mark is deciding if there's enough demand, all sorts of different ideas and designs. I think there was a request for dragon-shaped ones. Maybe that'll happen. Who knows? But if folks pick them up, and if you use the code, we could tell Mark, hey, these are selling like not hotcakes, they're selling like Deluxe Delight LEDs. Which,
Like skull cakes.
like skull cakes. All right, and start the show besides you, LadyAda, our team, our city, our customers, our staff, our community is?
The VL53L4CX. So this is another time-of-flight sensor from ST, and you're probably like, aren't there like 8 of these by now? And the answer is yes, there's about 8 of them. And they all look very similar, but this one is actually kind of neat in that it is a very long distance one. So far, previously the longest distance it could do was 4 meters. The VL53L4CX can do 6 meter distance, and it can do multi-target. So that means it can actually detect if there's 2 objects at different distances within its range of vision, which I think is about 18 degrees. Right now, there's only an Arduino library, and I will mention the Arduino library is really like chunky. So it can't run on an Uno. You really do need like a Cortex M0 or M4 or ESP32. But they do have a library written for this sensor. I just got it working yesterday pretty much. And you know, it's got an amazing range of 10 millimeters to 6,000 millimeters. It can actually go a little bit under 10 millimeters, but it's no longer linear. The multi-target is cool too. We were chatting with Liz and we said this would be a great sensor for making like a laser harp. But it can also be used for robotics if you want to do like distance sensing. But again, you know, 6 meters away is really far away. You can also do, I think, if you want to make a digital measurement device, what's it called? Like a tape measure.
Yeah.
Like a laser tape
A
measure.
distance sensor?
A distance sensor, but like not, usually distance sensors aren't that precise. This one is
Yeah.
precise to a couple millimeters. So check it out. It's the same format as our other VL53 sensors, but again, we don't have CircuitPython or Python code as of yet. We're going to start writing that library hopefully soon.
That's new products. All right, don't forget the code DELUXE. You can use it, you know, to get these skulls.
Skulls.
And other things, but like, this is what you want.
Skulls.
You get 5 in each of that. All right, we're gonna do questions, but first we're gonna do some top secret. So load up your questions in adafruit.it/discord, where
I
you
figured
can
out how
join.
to quit. You have to hold the button down.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So let's do some top secret. All right. First up for top secret this week. This is just a bunch of stuff that we're working on. So no other information, just like you can expect some
Not
really neat
explaining what
cube
it is.
things. We're showing these off on some of our shows, some of the things that we're up to, and there's a lot of interesting projects you're going to be able to do with accelerometers,
Get in the
with
cube.
LED panels.
The future is cubic.
The future is cubic. And I think there's another demo. I can keep letting
After
this play.
this, well, I mean, the
think there
globe is kind of neat.
I think there's another demo too. I don't know. I'm just gonna let this play all the way to the end because it's so cool
I
to
like
watch.
how Arizona's just getting like squished constantly. Squish.
Flat land.
I think this is it.
And next up, this is a little bit of a preview of what we showed off. This is the music, I guess, visualizer for the Kinect machine. And then the other top secret is one that we just shot today, so we're going to play it.
All right, LadyAda, what is this?
These are still panelized ESP32 S3 Cutie Pie. So this is coming soon. We released the S2 Cutie Pie. The S3 has dual core and it has BLE and a lot more RAM. So this is a lovely little chip now in Cutie Pie format. And this is how it comes on panels. So, you know, I like this panelization technique where it's routed out and then V-scored because it's really easy to just break them off. It's like little like grapes or something. And then this is the tester. So the board goes in here. I plug it into USB-C, and then there's this little testing jig. And the test code was going to test the GPIO. It programs it, tests the Wi-Fi strength and everything. So I'm finishing this tester now, and this is going to be in the store really soon. Cutie Pie ESP32 S3.
Okay, let's do some questions.
All right.
We're doing this. All right, here we go. Let me hit Discord.
The gigantic
and
question.
I'm going to scroll back. Could the Crate 3 run CircuitPython? If not, is CircuitPython going to be able to run stuff like this in the future?
I don't know yet because I'm not, you know, I don't know anything more than that press release, but I think we could probably get CircuitPython Blinka working on it if it's Linux.
Okay. There was a question about the, I think it was the ion MPI. Was it like I squared C or something? But I'm having a hard time scrolling back all the way.
So many messages.
Well, if I missed your comment from a while ago, go ahead and post it up in the chat.
Yeah.
Let me go to the other question that I had lined up. I think.
Not a question. Sometimes there's tons of
Yeah,
questions.
well, no, it was, I want one of you bridges you are. No, got that. Yeah, if you could post your questions again, because I lost some of the chat, it looks like, with the app. Sorry. We might be ahead of schedule here. I think it was like, what protocols did that NXP sensor use?
The input's UART, so you send it just like binary ASCII data.
Is it on the bridge picture?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
maybe
this
what it
one, the
was.
one that we showed is UART to I²C, but they have ones that do like every other kind of combo.
Yeah.
I could show more of the watch, but like not mess it up.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, I just got this, and it's like I'm supposed to be an expert. So, you want to go to the overhead? Or
When will the next TFT 9-inch come out?
the TFT 9-inch?
Yeah.
I don't have a plans for a 9-inch.
Okay.
Okay, so there's Anton clock. Let's go to a Q clock. And then, let's see. Yeah, so the thermometer, this hung, but then it eventually, maybe it didn't work, I don't know. There's
Oh, does the ESP32 V2 support CircuitPython?
The ESP32 does not. Only the S2 and the S3 support it right now. But we're thinking of how we could support the ESP32.
Yeah.
But you could use MicroPython.
All right. Someone said they just arrived in the show. They want to know how is New York City doing with the latest COVID variant. So I'm glad you asked because like, so by the way, let me just do a disclaimer as usual. Lamore and I live together. We're the only people here during the day at Adafruit. We've decided to keep the masks on indoors, and our team is fully vaccinated. So this is my observation. The number of COVID testing pop-ups, like the independent business ones in New York City, there's definitely less of them. There is more rapid tests in every possible place that people can get them. And a lot of people have them. There's no run-on rapid tests. We have a bunch here at Adafruit if we need to give anyone a test. And then our staff has these at home as well. And we can give any to anyone as well. We have enough to do that, and everything has worked out that way. But those aren't reported. And when they're not reported, the numbers that we used to be able to get, like what's the positivity rate and how do you know what's really going on, it's a little unclear. People don't seem to be getting severely ill at all. In fact, the 2 people right now that are isolating and/or have tested positive with a rapid test out of 130 plus Adafruit people, mild symptoms, and maybe one of them does or doesn't have it. So far so good, but it does seem to be like another wave. So our mayor in New York City is isolating with COVID. Lots of folks that are well known in like the media in New York, I think like Anderson Cooper or something, tested positive. And it's just like a lot. It's like it's been happening and happening and happening and happening and happening. And folks are okay, but this variant seems to be spiking up again. So we'll see what happens, but it's getting a little difficult to know what's really going on nationwide because some states aren't reporting anymore. The wastewater numbers seems to indicate that there is a spike happening. And so I think we're all just going to have to continue to live with this thing. And if you work at a place that allows feedback for things, our team has decided together consistently that it didn't make sense for us to take off masks indoors when we're around people. So we do that here when there's people. It just happens to be the 2 of us now. And so we're going to continue to do that until our team collectively says, well, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't look like we need to do it anymore. So that's the way you got to be, fast and flexible. Okay. I think that is no response time listed for the time of flight sensor. Any idea what it is? Seems like it,
You have to check the data sheet. I don't know what it is, but it's usually about 50 hertz.
Okay. All right. And I think that's our questions for today.
Okay.
All right. A little bit of a reminder. Don't forget the code is Deluxe. Pick up some skulls. You may as well.
Pick up a skull.
And
He'll be your friend.
Wanted to say thank you to all the Adafruit team members for running things behind the scenes. Takara is running it in Slack behind the scenes this week. All the Adafruit community members that are here in all the chats that have been helping out, and the moderators doing stuff on Discord. Thanks for getting us 34,000. We did it together, everyone. It's a safe place, a cool place, a great place to bring people together, and that's why there's a lot of folks that stop by. We'll see everybody next week. This has been an Adafruit production.
Thanks, everybody.
Here is your moment of Zener. Good night, everybody.